whip from a few weeks back. We've got our Bluey. So this was for those of you that don't know, Hi everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Peach&Paige Podcast. My name's Jenna. I am the owner and designer of Peach&Paige. Today is the 20th of September, and I'm coming to you today from an overcast and 18 odd degree day here in Adelaide Hills in South Australia, where I live with my husband and my 3 kids. If you're joining me again for the third time, then thank you for coming back. I'm glad that you're enjoying these podcasts and getting something out of them. And if you're joining for the very first time, welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, certainly please hit the like and subscribe button. I'm a crochet and knitwear designer for Peach&Paige. So I'll put my website down here as usual, so you can find me there. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. And I've got an Etsy shop as well. So today is going to be a little bit of a rush. Hopefully I'm under a bit of time pressure today. For those of you that have joined me before, you would know that I usually do these podcasts while my son is sleeping, and my 2 daughters are at school. Normally their dad picks them up on the Fridays that I film podcasts. However, he messaged me this morning to say that he was going to be working late and that I have to pick them up at 3. So I've got about an hour and a half until I need to be at school, and naturally today was the day that Eli decided that he was going to fight a nap. So it's taken about half an hour for me to get him down. So I'm going to push through everything today and try get all this done in a timely and efficient manner. I do have my show notes, so I apologise. Like I said, I'm a bit frazzled today, so I will probably be referring to my notes a little bit to make sure that I'm on track and not forgetting anything. Last week's podcast went a lot more smoothly than the first one. So for those of you that know, my first podcast, while the filming went great, I had a lot of issues with editing and uploading. But then I since got a new laptop, and last fortnight's podcast took me like an afternoon to edit instead of 2 whole days. And I uploaded really, really quickly. So that went nice and smooth, and the whole thing uploaded instead of, the last 20 minutes being cut off, which was lovely. So I'm definitely getting better and quicker at editing these things, and then this one should be even quicker again. So I've got a lot to show you today as well. So sit down, grab a whip, grab your beverage of choice, and I really hope you enjoy the podcast today. Oh, don't forget, do hit the like and subscribe button, please. If you enjoy the podcast today, it would mean a lot to me. So we're going to jump straight into finished objects, because I have got so much done over the last 2 weeks. I've, smashed it out the ballpark. First of all, the first one that I want to show you, which you would have probably seen already, possibly if you follow me on Facebook and the likes, but this was a whip from a few weeks back. We've got our Bluey. So this was for those of you that don't know, a Bluey doll from a kids TV show, ABC Kids show called Bluey. It's really, really popular at the moment, and my son quite enjoys it. So I decided I was going to make him a Bluey doll. There was some patterns online, and I did purchase a pattern. I won't link it for copyright reasons, but I did purchase a pattern. However, I adjusted it quite a bit. So I think the main body was from the pattern, but I adjusted it. There was a lot of errors in this pattern. It wasn't well written at all. The light color blue bit on his belly was all like shifting off to one side, so I had to completely rejig that. rejig the dark blue shaping behind the eyes. And then I completely redesigned the eyes, the nose, and the ears myself from the original, because the original just really didn't look much like Bluey at all. But I'm really quite happy with how it turned out. Actually, I'll put a photo up of the inspiration, Bluey, if you will. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how I've replicated it, and most importantly, my son seems to love it. So this was made using all Stylecraft yarn in a DK weight and I think a 3mm hook or a 3.5. I know I did a smaller hook than what you would normally use for a DK weight. Reason being is that obviously you want it nice and tight stitches when you're doing stuffed toys so the stuffing doesn't show through. So that was the reason for that, and I'll show you the back as well. It's got a little tail. So yeah, pretty cute. Very happy with how that turned out. So yeah, that was my first finished object this week, and it's been a whip for quite some time, so I was really glad that I actually got this one finished. It's, you know, when you've been working on something for ages, or you keep putting it off, and it's just haunting you every time you look at it. That was this for me. It was just mocking me. So now it's done. I'm happy. Okay, so that was finished object number 1. Next is another one that I've shown you guys before, which I've finished off, and that is my HARLEQUIN shawl. So this is obviously one of my patterns, and I'll put the links below. So I finished this pattern a few weeks ago, and as part of that, because I do my patterns in toddler, child and adult sizes for this particular pattern, I needed to make a child one, just to make sure that my instructions in the pattern for my decreases and increases were spot on. Oh, I just realized I've got some loose ends that I've missed. So I had bought the Stylecraft Baltic. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I was calling it Baltic, but I realized there was no L in there. Hold on, I'll grab one. Oh, it's falling everywhere. Baltic, I don't know. But it's a Stylecraft yarn that's got a really nice washed, stone washed sort of effect to it. It's a wool acrylic blend. Yep, 80% acrylic, 20% wool. Super soft. It was beautiful to work with, which I mentioned last time. Let's chuck that up there for now. As you can see, this is getting out of hand. If you've got any tips as to how I can organize this better, please let me know, because it's just getting ridiculous. So yeah, so I did it in the Stylecraft Baltic. My HARLEQUIN shawl normally was just 2 tones, so split down the middle. Because I only had limited yarn in the colours, because even though I bought heaps, I only bought 2 of each colour. I wasn't sure if I would have quite enough to do half and half. So instead I did in quarters, so I did 4 colours. Now I wish I'd remembered what colours they were. I've completely forgotten now. I think it was, oh gosh, heather, I think was the purple. I think there was rose was the pink, and mint, and oh, I can't remember what this one was called. It wasn't butterscotch. I'll put it down here when I find out. And yes, I got my little tassels in there. So it's just a nice triangle shawl scarf, however you want to describe it. So obviously this is the child size, so it is a bit smaller on me. That being said, it is a rather large shawl, so you could get away with it. I think I even put the toddler one on last week, and it could work if you wanted it to. So yeah, it's something like that, but yeah, a little bit small on me, obviously. Yeah. So it's very cute. So I finished that one as well. So that one I'll probably give to my my eldest, here in Australia at the moment, it's September, so even though it hasn't really warmed up yet, spring is on its way. So a lot of these items probably won't really be worn until next winter anyway. But yes, so that was finished object number 2 for this fortnight. Told you I've got lots done. I've been very, very productive. Next finished object, I'm going to get a mouthful of water, excuse me. My next finished object, again, this is one that you have seen previously. So these are my DELILAH gloves, so another one of my patterns. So this is obviously a knit glove. So I mentioned these, I think, in my first podcast, that I'd made one for a friend and her daughter stole them off of her sister, and so I was going to make the bigger size for the older sister, but she'd stolen the smaller ones. And anyway, so my friend was like, oh, don't stress, like, still make them, don't frog it. So that's exactly what I did. So I think I had made one, I just hadn't made the second one yet. So these are all finished now. I can probably put it on. So this is the child size, so I think this is size 7 to 10, but being a knit, they're very, very stretchy. And you really could probably get away with wearing them anyway. Probably just a little tight around the hand. But yes, so that's what they look like worn. Obviously, like I said, this is the child size. So the adult size comes down a bit, and obviously the ribbing's not quite as stretched out. But you get the idea. There's not a huge difference in the size. There's a few decreases down there, so it's not just a straight tube. So I think there's probably about 3 decreases on the child size for that really nice snug fit. And it's just got a nice reverse stockinette sort of staggered ribbing down them. So this yarn was a hand-dyed yarn by the Australian Wool Store in the colourway Charlotte's Rose or Charlotte Rose. See if I got the ball here. So that's it caked up. So it was a really nice pastel sort of rose pink, I suppose, fuchsia dusty colour with some little specks of green and brown scattered throughout. So yeah, a really nice colourway, really pretty. So I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of this. There's probably 50 grams left, maybe a bit less. I probably only used half a skein for the gloves. They really didn't use up too much. So yeah, I suppose I'll just keep, I've got a few sort of little 8-ply hand-dyed wool bundles now, so I'm sure I'll find a project for it. If not, I'll have to design one. So yeah, that's that one. So I got those also finished this week. So they all get sent off to my friends. Told you I've been really, really busy. And last but not least, I have one more finished object. So I have a bib pattern called my Charlie bib, which I released quite some time ago, at least 6 months, I reckon. And I've sold heaps of them. And it was a really nice textured bib pattern. And then someone messaged me, I think, what day is it today? I think it was Wednesday, so 2 days ago, to say that she thinks there was an error on row 8. I thought, oh my God, I've sold so many of these. How does this not come up? And this has happened to me before. I've sold a pattern for so long. No one tells me. If no one tells me that there's an error in my pattern, I'm not going to know. I don't use testers because I've been burnt by testers before. And generally my patterns aren't too complicated. So I rely on feedback from people if they do pick up an error to let me know. So I don't know how many people have seen this error on row 8 and just worked their way around it, because obviously they've worked it out, but please tell me if you find something in my patterns that you don't think is quite right. Let me know. I won't be offended. It gives me an opportunity to actually fix my pattern. So anyway, there was a small error in row 8. Like I said, anyone that is sort of proficient in crocheting would have been able to work out what it was meant to do, and would have just gone ahead and done it. But anyway, I needed to double check, and to do that I needed to make up a bib, which I haven't made one in ages, but they're really quick to make up, and I've got a bunch of cotton which I haven't touched in ages because it's been winter and I don't tend to use cotton during the cooler months. And so I pulled out a whole bunch of cotton and thought, well, I might as well make the most of this sample and make something really pretty, and I did. So I whipped this up in about 3 hours, I reckon, last night. So I hope the camera does it justice. The colours are, it's obviously like the pastel rainbow, if you will. I haven't put the buttons on, so normally there would be 2 buttons here for it to, you know, made into a bib. But for the sample, so that's what I went with. So like I said, this took me 3 hours to do. These are such, you know, if you got a baby shower coming up, what a perfect little gift. So I've made these in like nice white and blue and fawn and all sorts of colors, but I'd never actually done one where I chopped and changed colors. So this isn't a color changing cake. It was actually colors that I cut after every 3 rows. So it was 3 rows in the pattern of each color except yellow, which I only did 1 row of because it was the bobbles and just the way it fell, and I only needed the 2 rows instead of 3 for the yellow, and it all sort of looked fairly even in size with the color changes. So like I said, this was sort of from my scraps that I've got of cotton. So for the pink, I think the yellow, the green and the blue were all spotlight cotton that I used to have. I'll show you again. So that was the pink. So this is just Flinders cotton 8 ply that you get at Spotlight. I believe they haven't discontinued this one as of yet. You can still get it. So yeah, the pink, the yellow, the green and the blue were all the Flinders cotton. It's a really nice cotton. I like it. As you know, I'm not a massive fan of the Spotlight, like the Marvel brand acrylics and stuff. I think they're really nasty, but their cotton's beautiful. It's soft. It can go a little bit fluffy after a couple of washes, but it's a really nice cotton, and the colors are gorgeous. They're beautiful colors. Yeah, I've never had a problem with their cotton. I've bought quite a bit of it over the years. And then the other colors, so the orange and the purple were paint box. So I had some paint box cotton as well. So that was the orange, which I believe is melon sorbet, I think, is the orange, and the purple would be pale lilac. So for those of you that have bought my acrylic yarn pegs for paint box, the cotton colors are the exact same range of colors as the acrylic. So that's the melon sorbet. So that was my bib that I whipped up. So I took some photos of it earlier because, I mean, hello, if this is not Instagrammable, I don't know what it is. So I'll get some photos of that up tonight. So if you're following me on Instagram, you'll probably see some photos of this already by the time you watch this podcast, because I would have already put them up. So yeah, beautiful bib. I'll put the link to the pattern below. Super quick, super easy. It's like a mini shawl, I guess, with some front post and back post, and bobble, and obviously your fillet or sort of chain 1 skip 1 type stitches, and then a nice frilled edging. For those of you that have purchased any of my patterns before, you'll know my patterns are incredibly detailed and photo heavy. I include separate instructions on how to do front post and back post stitches, a separate section on how to do the bobble stitch, and then all the other sections, obviously heaps of photos of where exactly to put your hook, all your row counts, everything. So don't be intimidated. It looks like a really complicated pattern, but it's actually super, super simple. And because you make it up in cotton, cotton's great for bringing these sort of textures out. So what can be a really basic shawl or bib, sorry, you get those textures in there, and that the cotton really makes them stand out and look super effective. So yeah, so I was really, really stoked with how that whipped up. Very happy with it. Don't know what I'm going to do with it. It'll just sit in my pile of finished stuff, I guess, until I find someone to gift it to. It would be great if someone was having their rainbow baby. So a baby after a pregnancy loss. Be really nice. So yeah, bit of an idea for that pattern. I think that's actually it for my finished items. So what, 1, 2, 3, 4 items knocked out of the park this week, which I'm really happy about. I did mention before, we had, when I last put my podcast up, so 2 Sundays ago, that night we'd had gastro go through the house that weekend, and the Sunday night I got hit with it around the same time I was uploading my podcast. So good timing in a way, because at least I got it up and then I didn't have to do anything. But the next 2 days are like a blur to me. So I lost a couple of days of crocheting, knitting time. So I'm quite happy with how much I actually managed to achieve and get done. All right, so obviously with so many finished objects, I haven't had a lot of time to work on or get started on any whips, but I did cast on one new work in progress. So I think I mentioned last podcast that, well, I know I filmed it, I'm not sure, I might have edited it out, but I'm wanting to try get in the habit of at any given point in time having at least one, whether it be crochet or knitwear pattern casted on or being worked on, that isn't one of my own. So I spend so much time doing my own patterns. So I want to be constantly working on someone else's patterns. Reason being is because I'm so self-taught, it's going to be a great way for me to discover new techniques and different ways people do things, which is going to allow me to grow as a pattern designer myself. So I've decided I'm going to start doing that, and so I did. So because we're coming into September, I didn't want to start working on like a jumper or a cardigan or anything like that, although I'm dying to do some of those. There was no point, because I wouldn't be wearing it until, for at least another 6-9 months anyway. That being said, it's probably going to take me that long to make, but anywho. So I wanted something that was going to be sort of super suitable for the warmer weather to give me incentive to get it finished. So I decided that I wanted to do a top. Obviously, there's still a fair bit out there, but you don't see as many sort of summer clothes when it comes to knitting and crochet. But there's no reason that you can't. I suppose people think wool is too warm to be wearing during the summer, which is a misconception to begin with. Plus you've got brilliant fibers like bamboo and cotton and linen, which you can also work with, and there's some great patterns for singlets and tops and things like that, using those, designed for use with those sort of fibers that you can wear during the summer. So I did a bunch of searching on Ravelry. So I had an idea sort of in my head of the sort of thing I wanted to do. I wanted something that was fairly simple, because I'd never made an adult size top before. I don't do a lot of clothing. I do a lot of more accessories and decor. So I knew this was going to be sort of a bigger project, and I wanted to do knit because I'm wanting to learn more knit patterns and get better at knitting, because I naturally am quicker and faster as a crocheter. And so I had a look through and I decided on this beautiful top, and I'll insert a picture of it here. So this is the T-shirt Romantic by Paula TB's Ravelry store. So it's a really basic knit, sort of oversized T-shirt, I guess, with a V back neck on it. So nice and simple, will give me some more exposure to construction techniques with knitting. I've never knit anything where I've had to sew pieces of knitted fabric together, I guess you'd say. And like I said, I'd never made a top before. So I decided this one would be a good project, fairly simple. It wasn't going to be complex or, you know, have heaps of lace work or anything like that yet. Although that obviously is something that I want to get into. And it's also a top that's flattering for my body size. So obviously having 3 kids, I got a bit of a mum tum. So I don't want anything that's overly tight and fitted. So, but nothing that's sort of frumpy either. So this was just a nice loose t-shirt, which I thought would be great. So the yarn that I chose, I was tossing up between going and getting some nice hand-dyed yarn, because hey, why not? And then obviously, and I also needed to choose something that a fibre for me to make it with. So looking through the patterns, a lot of the sort of tops and t-shirt patterns were designed for like linen blends and linen silk blends and things like that, and I didn't have access to those fibres immediately, and I've got no patience. I wanted to start this project today, and so I didn't have exposure to them, and they were really expensive. And so being my first top, I didn't want to spend heaps of money on wool, just in case this top didn't quite work out right, or I really buggered it up, and then I, you know, potentially could ruin quite expensive wool. So I wanted something that was, if it didn't work, it didn't work. It wasn't going to be the end of the world. So Spotlight had a half price sale on. I was not obviously going to do acrylic, but I had to choose a fibre. So I had the options of going with a cotton or a linen. Spotlight don't sell linen at all, so it was just going to be cotton or merino wool. So cotton, I've worked with a cotton before, and it's quite, I always find it to be quite stiff. I haven't worked with a really with premium expensive cotton before. I've only really worked with the Spotlight Flinders 8-ply cotton and Paintbox cotton, which is what I used in that bib. So while it's really bright and vibrant and stunning colours, it's not the sort of, it doesn't create a fabric that I think would fit nice as a t-shirt. And it's sort of quite stiff, and I hadn't knitted with those fibres before either, so I was a bit hesitant going down that route. So what I actually decided on doing was using a pure merino, because I was able to find a pure merino in a 4-ply at Spotlight half price. So it was, I can't remember what it was now, it was like $5 a ball instead of 10 or something, and which is quite reasonable, knowing that I would need about 5 or 6 balls. So it cost me about $30. And so this is what I was saying before about there being sort of a misconception with wool not being suitable for summer. So merino wool is a bit different than your normal wool, or obviously a wool synthetic blend, so like a wool acrylic blend or something along those lines. Merino is an incredibly fine, delicate fibre. So I love working with merino for both winter and summer wear. So a few characteristics that I'd like to point out about merino wool. So merino wool is, it's incredibly absorbent. So it can retain, I think, about 30% of its weight in moisture. So what it does is when you wear merino, it draws the moisture away from your body. So one, it reduces you feeling sweaty and clammy like you would wearing something that's acrylic. It draws it away from your body. And then in the same way that sweating works, it as that moisture then evaporates, it in the summer sun, it creates a cooling effect and it draws the heat out. So pure merino wool is actually brilliant at keeping you cool. And the hotter it is and the more you sweat, the more cool it keeps you. Because it's drawing that moisture out and it's using that moisture to then evaporate and draw that heat out. So merino is actually brilliant for keeping you cool, and it does the opposite in winter as well. So it keeps you warm. It keeps so it works both ways. It's that's why it's such an incredible fiber to work with. So not only does merino keep you cool, and it's incredibly breathable, and it is also it's odor reducing. So because it's a natural fiber, it doesn't grow bacteria and get nasty and odory and things like that. It's hardy especially if you get a super wash. So it's really easy to look after and wash and wear. And what else was there? There was one other main characteristic. Oh, it's not itchy. So unlike a lot of other wool, which is quite coarse, merino wool is naturally very, very fine. And as such, it doesn't, when you look under a microscope, it doesn't fray out quite as much as other wool does. And it's that fraying out that causes that itchy friction against your skin. So merino isn't itchy like a lot of other wools are. So that's why merino wool is great for babies. Baby hats, I'll always recommend using merino over an acrylic or a synthetic for babies' hats, because while acrylic is great in that it's really cheap and versatile and comes in lots of colors, it sweats, it holds in heat, and baby is more likely to get hot and sweaty and itchy, and it's just unpleasant. Whereas something like merino, it's super soft. It helps regulate baby's temperature, which is the most important thing for little babies because their bodies can't do it themselves. So it helps keep them the right temperature, draws away sweat, and it's not itchy or irritating on baby skin, which is obviously hypersensitive being a baby. So that's why I tend to use merino, and I certainly recommend, especially if you're making baby wear and things like that, to always try use merino where you can, as opposed to using acrylic or even just a normal wool blend. A proper superwash merino, it's worth the money spent. That's for sure. It's more expensive for a reason, put it that way. And there's so many brands out there now that make them. And like I said, they've developed now how being able to make them superwash, so you don't need to worry about hand washing or anything like that, which is obviously going to be a hassle, especially for baby wear. You want something that, a mum can just chuck in the washing machine. A new mum, the last thing she wants to be doing is worrying about hand washing baby cardigans. Just me. So, sorry, I'm just moving my my notes. So on that note, so I've started this top, right? So the wool that I've decided on is this one. You know, focus. There we go. So Patience Baby Dreamtime Merino 4-ply. So when I was when I was deciding on a pattern, I knew I wanted something that was most likely a 4-ply because I wanted something that was going to be a bit more complex. I wasn't used to working with. And I also wanted to make sure that I picked a pattern that I had the right needle size with as well, because I'm really, like I said, I was impatient. I decided that day I wanted to make something and I needed the supplies to do it. So I got the Baby Dreamtime Merino in this stunning baby pink color. I was originally hoping that they had the light gray, but Spotlight never has the colours you want it to have. So I went for a pale pink, which I like pink. Pink's my favourite colour, so that was alright. So I got this. So this particular pattern works up on 4mm circulars, which I had available in 80cm. No, actually, I think these were 100cm Knit Pros. And so I've started, I'll show you the fabric. So that's how much I've done so far. So I did a crochet chain provisional cast on, which is the cast on that you can see that's in a different color. So I'd never done a provisional cast on before. Basically what a provisional cast on is, a cast on using spare yarn, or just like a nice contrasting yarn that you're going to take out eventually, and it just holds the stitches there, so then later on you can go back and repick these stitches up and continue on. So it's a way of casting on that leaves the stitches live. And so the one I picked was obviously one that was just a nice crochet chain cast on, because I know how to crochet as well. So that seemed like it would be the easiest option. There are a few different ways you can do a provisional cast on, but that was the one I chose. So that was good. I'd never done that before. So yeah, at the moment it's just stockinette stitch, working up. I think there was about 134 stitches across. So I've done about 3 inches so far. I need to do 7 inches before the next section. So plodding away. I think this is meant to be the front panel. I've got my little sheepy stitch markers, which I love. Yeah, so I'm enjoying working on that so far. Obviously it just looks a bit weird at the moment. I'm wondering, in the pattern, I'm guessing once we finish the provisional cast on, it won't roll, because as you can see at the moment it's rolling right up, which stockinette does. So I'm guessing that later on in the pattern we do something to sort of help prevent that a bit, or I guess once it's completed and it blocks out, it'll lay a bit flatter. I mean, looking at the pattern, it doesn't look like they've done much in the way of seams. It's sort of that raw seam type look, which I really like. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one all comes together. Interesting to note too, the fabric is quite sort of gappy, I suppose. I mean, when you don't stretch it, it's fairly nice, but obviously, so this is a 4-ply. So 4-ply, you would usually use probably a 2.5, I'm guessing 2.5 3mm hook for 4-ply. I mean, if you're making socks, you usually use a probably what, yeah, 2.25 or a 2.5 on a 4mm for socks. This is for a 4mm needle, so a significantly larger needle than what is usually recommended for gauge on a 4-ply. But I'm guessing that's what sort of creates that nice sort of flowy, loose fabric. So I'm hoping once I complete this one that it's not too see-through. It may be one that I have to sort of wear a little bit like a little cami underneath. But yeah, we'll see how we go. So it's going to be sort of my ongoing work in progress. So I'll make sure I put a stitch marker where I'm at the moment. So then next podcast or next fortnight, you can see how much more I've done, which hopefully will be somewhat significant. So I really want to start with, I want to wear this one this year. I don't want this to be a next summer project. I want it to be a this summer project. So that's actually my only whip that I've got this fortnight, but that's all right because I've finished heaps of stuff. So sort of relief, I feel like I got a clean slate. Yeah. So what did I want to talk about? Worker plans. So my plan at this stage for the next fortnight will be to obviously do more work on this. And also I'm hoping to, now that I've got a few finished objects done, to get back into my patterns. Obviously I didn't really do any work on new patterns the last 2 weeks. So I want to revisit the cactus pattern, which I showed you, my cactus that I showed you last podcast. And obviously my leg warmers, which I keep putting off because I keep putting it in the too hard basket, but I need to just sit down and do it. Oh, my Jack Skellington that I showed you last fortnight, which I did not get any work done on. So I will, I'll try get those things started over the next 2 weeks to be able to show you next fortnight. New purchases. So I haven't got any new wool this week. I have put an order in with Love Crafts, which is where I normally get all my yarn from. So I'm hoping to receive that sometime between now and the next podcast. So I've got some new yarn that I haven't used before or seen before or worked with before to show you. So I'm excited for that to come in and experiment with some new brands and some new 4-ply. So I've got some small sock patterns that I want to play around with, not my own, but other designer sock patterns that I want to play with. So I've got some yarn coming for that. And I've got a new mannequin. So if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that Spotlight was selling mannequins for like $20 that were normally $150. So I'll insert a picture here of the mannequin. So it's an absolute steal. I love it. So at the moment that's sitting in our bedroom with my grey and white HARLEQUIN shawl around it. So I'm quite happy with that bargain, well and truly. And it's going to come in handy for photos and things like that, especially now that I'm trying to venture into designing some more adult wear type items. So I got that. So I think that's it pretty much for purchases this week. Like I said, there's been no yarn, and I've got my mannequin. That's about it. Shop updates is next. So like I said, no new patterns coming at the moment, hoping to get some out in the next few weeks. I'm probably, once I get my cactus and my leg warmers out, going to be starting to work on some more summer stuff. Obviously at the moment the only real sort of summer pattern I've got at the moment is my my boho crop top, which was a huge seller. So that one's been really successful, but it's the only sort of summer item I got. So I really want to try get at least another 2 or 3 summer cotton based items out over this sort of next 4 months or so. So I want to do a vest, which I've sort of started working on previously. I've got a few drafts, I suppose you would call them, of vests that I've done previously. So I want to do a really nice crocheted sort of bohemian type vest shawl thing, and a few other little kids tops and things like that. So got to start thinking and brainstorming there. Probably the biggest shop update will be around my yarn pegs. So I know I've mentioned in previous podcasts that the yarn pegs, while they were super successful, I felt that they were taking away from my designing. And so I was looking at other ways of going about selling those, because clearly there's a market there. So what's happening is my my best friend DELILAH, who was helping me do a lot of the wrapping for the pegs that you guys have purchased from the Paint Box DK boxes, is going to be taking over the peg side of things. So they will still be available, but they'll no longer be available as through Peach&Paige. They're going to be available through her own brand. So I'll put the link to her Etsy shop down in the description. but it's Grace and Rose Boutique. And so she'll be doing all the yarn pegs in both Paintbox and Stylecraft, which I know you guys have been hassling me for. So she's purchased the whole range of Stylecraft, so the full 84 current available colours. I think there was 90, but they've just discontinued 6, so I don't think she's including them in her box sets because you're not going to be able to purchase them anyway. But the full 84 sets, she's been busy wrapping pegs for the last week or two now, and they're almost ready to go. So we're hoping that by the time I've edited and put up this podcast on Sunday, that they will actually be available. So feel free to check out the link below. I'll also obviously be putting the links up in my Instagram and things like that for her Etsy shop. So if you're wanting those Stylecraft pegs, you can now get them. And obviously the Paintbox ones will still be available as well. So they're available through the Etsy shop, and also I'm going to still have them available through my own website, so the peach&paige.com website. They'll still be all done by her and branded by her. She's just going to be using my website as a platform. So the main reason being is that she's able to then offer Afterpay. So you will still be able to purchase them through my shop, but they will still all be done by herself. I'm just sort of the middleman, I suppose, for that product on my shop. So keep an eye on my Instagram and things like that for more up-to-date information around it, because like I said, obviously I'm filming this 2 days ahead of time, so she's hoping we're going to be able to release on Sunday. It is possible that things may come up and she's not going to be ready until a day or two after, but yeah, just follow me on Instagram and you'll know when they're available. So that's really exciting. The pegs were great. I love the pegs. I'm gonna have to purchase a pair of the Stylecraft ones off of her myself, because I really want to start using Stylecraft more. As much as I do love the Paintbox acrylic, obviously Stylecraft have got almost double the colour range, and their acrylic's stunning as well, and a bit thicker than the Paintbox. It's got a bit more substance to it, so I want to start ordering some more of that. So I'm really keen to get a box myself from her once they're available, so that's really exciting. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest shop update we've got, is that the pegs are moving, and I know you guys have been hanging out for those Stylecraft ones. So, yeah. I think that's about it for all things Peach and Paige this fortnight. It's, like I said, it's just been a crazy 2 weeks of just smashing out so many finished objects, organising the transfer over of peg side of things. And I've been getting heaps of love on Instagram and Facebook. I think I've hit about 33 followers now on Instagram, which is really cool. I don't know why, but seeing it go from the 3200s to the 3300s felt like sort of a bit of a milestone. Sort of you're watching it, waiting for that one extra person to follow you to sort of tick you over. So that's really cool. I did do a sale on my patterns, which has ended now. For 50% off, I think I did. Yeah, I did a half price sale. That was great. Heaps of love there. People just stocking up. So that was really good. I think that's about it for that side of things. Done really well. It's only been 48 minutes. See, this is what happens when I know that I've got a timeline to stick to, and I'm getting more comfortable with doing this sort of stuff. So I don't think I'm rambling quite as much as I did in perhaps my first podcast, for those of you that have followed me from the beginning. So I'll probably just talk about a couple of personal things for those of you that are interested. If not, feel free to finish up now and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. If not, what's been going on with me? So I was getting my hair coloured last fortnight before my podcast. So if you remember, my hair was vibrant purple. I'll put a picture up here again in case you don't remember. So I was hoping to go to the hairdressers and get heaps of that stripped out and put some sort of unicorn, I suppose I described it as, colours in, so some pale pinks and blues and purples and things like that. The purple that I had, however, was just not going to budge. So we lightened it, but it had a lot of still red and copper undertones in it. And obviously to get those really nice pale colours, you need a really white base to work off of. So we stripped it what we could without obviously damaging my hair, and we decided we'd just sort of put a pink through. So at the moment, I freshened it up a bit last night. So my roots are still purple. So we did some nice purple roots, and then sort of put a pink, what do they call it? A root bleed, I think they call it. Blended the roots down and pink throughout the rest. So I touched it up with some baby pink last night, which I'm really happy with how that turned out because it had gone quite blonde. So yeah, I think I'm just going to touch it up with the pink and perhaps some lilac through the roots until my next hair appointment in about 2 months' time. And then hopefully we'll be able to do a full head of foils and get it real white blonde. It'll probably lighten on its own a fair bit between then anyway. The ends are getting quite light. There's not much yellow left in it. So yeah, hopefully we can get it a really nice white blonde, and then I can have a bit more of a play with the pastel colours. But no, I'm happy with it. It's pink, and that's the important thing. I love pink. So that's happened in the last 2 weeks. I'm getting my nails done tomorrow because they've grown out something horrendous. My nails grow really quickly. I don't know if many of you guys have got long acrylic nails, but I find after like 2-3 weeks they need to be replaced, and I can't afford to get them redone every 3 weeks. So I'm usually able to stretch them out till about 4. I don't know if they'll focus. Look at that regrowth. That's just horrendous. They're so grown out. So that's 4 weeks. And I've had to re-glue them down with nail glue like so many times just to keep them on. The fact that I've still got a full set is nothing short of a miracle, to be honest. So yeah, I'm getting them refilled tomorrow, which will be nice, because they're really annoying me. You know your nails are getting bad when you do this with your hair and you get like that strand stuck under the... That's when you know you need to get them redone, when your hair starts getting caught in them. Anyone that's had acrylic nails knows exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, getting them done tomorrow. Other than that, I think this weekend's going to be horrid. We got wet and rainy 13-14 degrees Celsius for the next 2 days. So it's going to be a nice quiet weekend I think, doing my knitting and crocheting and staying warm, watching Netflix. The girls are at their dad's this weekend, so I don't know if I've mentioned before, but I'm the girl's dad. And he's just sent me a message. Oh, there you go. I don't have to pick the kids up anymore. Hi, I can keep talking for another half an hour. No, I won't do that to you. So me and my 2 daughters' dad separated 7-8 years ago, something like that. Long time. No, be 7 years ago. Because my youngest is only 7. It's about 6.5-7 years ago. So they go to their dad's every second weekend, which is the Friday that I film my podcast, because generally I don't have to pick him up from school because he picks them up and takes them. And apparently his partner's going to be picking them up today, which is great. So I'm not in a rush to go anywhere. Not that I had to for another half an hour anyway, but that's good. That lets my son sleep a bit longer because he wasn't going to get much of a nap today. So that's just going to be a quiet weekend, and I don't have much else coming up for the next 2 weeks, I don't think. I'm just going to try work on as much stuff as possible before the next podcast. I've found that doing these podcasts have been so incredibly motivating. I've just got so much more incentive to just try get things done, because there's so much accountability on me now. Because 1, I need things to actually be able to show you in my podcast, and 2, I say I'm going to finish things, and when I've got hundreds of people watching my podcasts, or following me on Instagram, that's a lot of people that I'm, giving my word to. So it's been good. It's really given me motivation. I'm loving my little business at the moment, and I mean, a lot of that is thanks to you guys. You guys have really sort of made it what it is, and having that support and love and feedback that I get from you guys constantly is just, it's overwhelming, and it's gives me a reason to keep doing it. As flat out as I am between doing this and working 4 days a week and raising the 3 kids, and like, I don't stop. I do not stop. But I love it, because when so many people love and enjoy what I'm doing, it gives me a reason to keep doing it. So thank you. And I hope to continue doing this and growing and building my brand for a long time to come. So yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you again for joining me again today. I know we smashed through a lot of stuff. Once again, if you enjoy the podcast, please like and subscribe. It helps me get seen more throughout YouTube, and get out there more. I think I'm nearly up to about 50 subscribers now, which is really exciting. I'm pretty keen to get to like 100, and then I'll have to do, I think, a giveaway or something. I do eventually in these podcasts want to start doing podcast related giveaways and competitions and knit alongs or crochet alongs and things like that, so you guys can really sort of join me on my journey more. So that's things I want to have coming up as well. So yeah, please like and subscribe, and by all means, please send me questions. If there's anything that you want me to talk about in these podcasts, please do. I'm more than happy to fit in whatever. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask me a question or ask for me to discuss a particular topic in one of my podcasts, because I'd be absolutely more than happy to. Enjoy the next 2 weeks, and I will see you soon. Bye.